But we have a reasonable doubt. And that's something that's very valuable in our system.
Reggie Rose wrote a wonderful script, and everybody played it to the hilt.
Look, you know how these people lie? It's born in them.
Even though some of these issues would maybe be addressed differently now, how much of it is exactly the same?
I'm just saying a coincidence is possible.
And I say it's not possible.
You can go to each one of those jurors and say, I'm a little bit of that juror.
It was not a movie in which we had to cue the battleship, you know? You could concentrate on performance and camera.
You got 12 guys basically sitting in a room, and yet it is one of the great thrillers of all time.
Guilty.
Not guilty.
Guilty.
Not guilty. Not guilty.
Guilty. Not guilty.
"12 Angry Men" was first a live television drama written by a man named Reginald Rose, who was a great writer.
Reginald Rose was one of the most prolific and prominent TV directors and actors of what many people consider the golden age of television. He had been on a jury and was inspired to write the teleplay 12 Angry Men in 1954, and it was immediately successful.
Henry Fonda had seen the television show, and then he went around trying to get studios with his name attached, and nobody was interested. They couldn't care less about it. Number one, it had been on television for free. It was nothing that they thought would pull people to the box office. And because of his name, he did get United Artists somewhat involved, but he put a lot of the money up himself.
It's possible that Henry Fonda thought that this would be very helpful to his career in the long run, that he would be able to produce his own films, as many actors had started to do. And so he was willing to gamble on it. So he decided to become the co-producer on the film.
He's the one also that liked Sidney Lumet's work and got him to do the film.
Lumet started out as an actor and was in minor roles in some fairly big plays on Broadway and was gradually working his way up. So like Reginald Rose, he had a lot of experience in television as well, so it seemed like a natural fit.
When Fonda wanted to do 12 Angry Men as a movie, he came to me. It was my first feature, and nothing about the material has to appeal to you on your first feature. You just say yes. But here it was extraordinary because I knew Reggie's work very well. He tended toward a bit of sentimentality because his belief was so intense. He so believed that people were good. And I don't feel that. But to have a script of that dimension and that richness of character was just very, very lucky.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, that's 11 guilty. Was 40 not guilty? 1. Right. 11 guilty, 1 not guilty. Well, now we know where we are.
The wonderful thing about getting 12 Angry Men as a movie was that, on the one hand, everybody said, oh my God, 12 people in one room, that's not a movie. It's impossible to make it a movie. Not being a movie director yet, I didn't see what the problem was. It never occurred to me that there was a problem.
He'd never done a movie before, and here he's working with Henry Fonda. But you know, when you're young, you're very brave, and you think you can do anything, and he did.
Nobody did that. Had that kind of guts, that kind of confidence. He was in control all the time.
The day before we began to shoot, we all went down to the set, and we had sort of made a compromise backing, which is the photo mural outside the window. And Fonda went pale. And I said, Hank, what's the matter? And he said, that backing looks like shit. For the first time, he thought, oh, hell, that's what I get for hiring a first-time director.
Many of the people who are in the film were either making debuts or they had been on television. Some had been Broadway actors. So they were really going for the sort of everyman look.
They're real people. They're not glamorous. They're not rich. It's 12 everymen in that room.
There was so much television being done live in New York, and it was a huge area for actors. That's why live television was so good.
The burst of talent in acting and directing and in writing was just unbelievable. Perfectly nondescript, normal-looking actors, E.G. Marshall, Eddie Binns, Marty Balsam, suddenly finding themselves really having wonderful acting careers, and that's all because of TV.
It was a privilege to work with those men. They were the best actors in the country.
That movie is the pantheon of character actors of the latter half of the 20th century.
We know these people not because they wanted to be stars necessarily, but because they were brilliantly talented, and that talent made them stars.
Well, the only thing you know about any of these men is their profession. This is all you really know about these men, because the anonymity of the jury process is mirrored in this lack of backstory. The audience doesn't know any more about these men than they know about each other.
We have a first-degree murder charge here, and if we vote the accused guilty, we've got to send him to the chair.
So you start with juror number 1, who's the foreman. That's Martin Balsam, who many years later won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in 1,000 Clowns. He's just kind of a likable guy who's a high school football coach, and he kind of keeps them in line. He keeps us cool.
Juror number 1 calls out the biggest bully very early on in the piece, and it doesn't go very well.
We decided to, do this a certain way. I think we ought to stick to that way.
Oh, stop being a kid, will ya?
What do you mean, a kid?
What do you think I mean? K-I-D, kid.
Now, the boy was 5 feet 7 inches tall. His father was 6'2". It's a very awkward thing to stab down into the chest of someone who's more than half a foot taller than you are.
Juror number 2 is John Fiedler. He's a very meek guy. At first you think he's going to go with the crowd, but he starts to think for himself.
He said 15 seconds. He was very positive about it.
He was an old man. Half the time he was confused. How could he be positive about anything?
Juror number 3, of course, is the second lead, Lee J. Cobb.
Well, you're not getting through to me. I've had enough. What's the matter with you guys? You all know he's guilty. He's got to burn. You're letting him slip through our fingers.
He is the one person in that jury room who most identifies with the victim and sees the boy on trial just like his own son, as somebody that needs to be punished.
Lee J. Cobb, I saw him in Death of a Salesman for $1.80. I saw him 5 times, it cost me $9. He was not magnificent, he was absolutely sensational. He was everything that I ever dreamed that I wanted to be. It was a joy. Here, I had a chance to act with him.
She got a good look at the boy in the act of stabbing his father. As far as I can see it, this is unshakable testimony.
Juror number 4 is E.G. Marshall. He's a stockbroker. He's very measured in his responses.
I remember the line that I said to E.G.
Don't you ever sweat? No, I don't.
Well, it broke me up. I mean, he's not that kind of a guy.
I've played in backyards that were filled with garbage. I mean, maybe you can still smell it on me.
Juror number 5 is Jack Klugman. He has come from a slum background himself, and he feels a rapport with the young boy who's being charged with murder.
I went on the road with Henry Fonda and Mr. Roberts for about 15 months, and we got along very well. That was my first professional job. I was 28, and I got to play opposite the best actor, not one of the best, but the best actor I've ever worked with, Henry Fonda. And I think Hank got me the job on 12 Angry Men because I was really too old for the part, but he never mentioned it. He never told me he got me the job. I love this guy.
You gotta have more respect, mister. If you say stuff like that to him again, I'm gonna lay you out.
Juror number 6 is a character actor named Edward Binns. And his background comes in when they're talking about living near an L train and the noises. So he's also just sort of a solid citizen guy, very nice, very reasoned.
Yeah, we can all get out of here pretty quick, huh? I don't know about the rest of you, but I happen to have tickets to that ball game tonight. Yanks in Cleveland.
Juror number 7. He wants to get out of there. He wants to go to the baseball game.
Jack and I, we were good friends. I mean, he was funny. He was a wonderful actor. And Sidney took advantage of him. He used him all he could.
You mean you're asking us to believe that somebody else did the stabbing with exactly the same kind of knife?
The odds are 1,000,000 to 1.
It's possible, but not very probable.
Juror number 8 is Henry Fonda. The characterization is so close to other roles that Henry Fonda has played, going back to The Grapes of Wrath. He was definitely the ideal choice for it.
Here's another guess. Maybe she honestly thought she saw the boy kill his father. I say she only saw a blur.
It's a very difficult role because it's the everyman, but he also has to drive the story. And so you have to be active without being too active. And you have to be interesting with basically just saying, all I want to do is discuss. And it takes a really good actor to be able to make that really interesting.
It's not easy to raise my hand and send a boy off to die without talking about it first.
Well, now, who says it's easy?
No one.
The challenge is you don't want him to be somebody who is representing an idea of justice or an idea of responsibility. He needs to be a person as well as a hero. And Fonda, in his great performance, embodies these two things really beautifully.
Henry Fonda was one of the most beautifully prepared actors I've ever worked with. Number one, he had great technique. If the script girl said, Hank, you took a puff of the cigarette on that line or that word, and he'd say, no, it was 2 words earlier, and he'd always be right.
You believed him because he never lied. Because I see actors lying all the time, acting all the time. He never acted. He was that person.
He would have had to walk 12 feet, open the bedroom door, walk 43 feet down, and open the front door, all in 15 seconds. You think he could have done it?
I think his great legacy is the fact that in an era when the acting styles in film was to be a bit theatrical, he was just naturally natural on film. So he was real. People loved the realness of Henry Fonda.
He would say, can I go again, because I don't think that was really honest. Wonderful to work with, and we did 4 more pictures together after that.
Well, why should he lie? What's he got to gain?
Attention, maybe.
Juror number 9 is Joseph McSweeney. He's a very kind person, and he has a lot to say to the other jurors about human nature.
I love Joe. I loved old actors in those days. Now I can become an old actor.
He's a common, ignorant slob. He don't even speak good English.
He doesn't even speak good English.
Juror number 10 is a guy who has very deep prejudice. It's a pretty powerful piece of hate-mongering and ignorance, played very memorably by Ed Begley.
You can talk till your tongue is dragging on the floor. The boy is guilty, period. Know what I mean, my friend?
Ed and I were friends before, and he used to bring in a different niece every day. And pretty girls. And I said, Ed, how many nieces do you have? He said, as many as I could get.
Now, my question is, if he really had killed his father, why would he come back home 3 hours later?
Juror number 11 is George Voskovic.
Voskovic, who seemed to be nothing. He was wonderful. He played that foreigner with that accent, which he had. But he played like, I don't really have a voice, until he was challenged.
You can't talk like that to me.
I can't talk like that to you.
Juror number 12 is Robert Weber. He doesn't really want to take a stand.
What do you think? I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know.
Bob had a reputation as a bad guy, but he was really sweet. And we both talked very fast. It would take a minute to do a page. We would do it in 50 seconds.
If nobody else has an idea, I might have a cutie here. I mean, I haven't given it much thought, but let's throw it out on the stoop and see if the cat picks it up.
And that's what comprises the 12 members of the jury. All male, all white, but they all have different backgrounds that they come from, and they all bring emotional baggage to their roles.
Because of their own intensity with each other and trust of one another from an acting point of view, the picture wound up with a tension dynamic that was greater than what I saw when I read the script.
I think we ought to have an open ballot. Let's see who stands where.
The vote is now 6-6.
Yeah, and we go into extra innings here, huh?
We did the movie in 19 days. It was going to be tight because of the budget. It was a ridiculous budget. $349,000. I still remember it now. You can't get an off-Broadway play done for that now.
We all got $3,600 for the whole picture. I tell you, I would have done it for nothing. I would have paid them. It was so wonderful.
They did so much rehearsing prior to the shooting that's how they were able to get it shot in just 3 weeks.
We rehearsed it like a play. We rehearsed it right through. See, there are film directors that have a week rehearsal. It's a waste of time because they can't tell you what to do. Sidney knew what to tell you.
I come from theater as well as live television, and I rehearse very, very extensively. If you've prepared it properly, staged it properly, and done your work with the actors properly, and you don't go 18 takes.
What's it
The glorious Boris Kaufman was the cameraman. Boris was one of the great black and white cameramen, and By the time I got him, he'd already done Waterfront. And he was a great, great artist, and we did 7 pictures together subsequently.
Sidney was able to do something and make it so lively and so spirited with a camera. So obviously, this was something that he had thought of before shooting actually began.
But it was a complex shooting procedure, and we just labeled wall A, wall B, wall C, wall D. We went around the room 3 times in the 3 different kinds of light. Daylight, which is what it began with.
I called the weather bureau this morning. This is going to be the hottest day of the year.
Then the transition into when the rain came. And then when the lights, overhead lights were turned on. Those 3 moods, essentially, were the guide to the shooting.
Lumet had a tremendous challenge to preserve viewer interest in a single room. And he does this through constant changes of camera angles and all kinds of inventive uses of the camera.
Films that have been based on stage plays that kind of take place in one room are usually so static. This, you never feel that.
We think about the tracking shot that occurs at the beginning of the film, the long shot that, is shot from behind the fan in the jury room as the jurors file in. A really tremendous piece of directing.
It was a very complicated shot on the crane with a great many different positions.
It was a 6-minute shot, and he rehearsed it for a day and a half. And then he shot it, and I think we did it in half a day. So he knew what he wanted, and he knew how to get it.
There's one point very late in the film in which Ed Begley rants and rants about what scum these people are. And one by one, even the people who agreed with his guilty verdict at that time start walking away from him. And they turn their backs on him. It's almost like they're creating a wall. And so that was a very interesting cinematic trick for the DP and the director to do, in that it totally isolates him.
What's happening in here? I'm speaking my piece and you...
Obviously, you're going to run out of greatly varying visual ideas with 12 people in one room. What I rapidly decided on was I'm not going to be able to make it anything else. Let me turn that into an advantage by making it more and more confined. So as the picture progressed, I used longer and longer lenses. In other words, brought the walls in closer, brought the ceiling in closer, just to make it even more claustrophobic. And I also kept dropping the eye level. In the beginning, I was above eye level, middle third of the movie at eye level, last third of the movie below eye level. Without anybody ever being aware of it, I think they helped the sense of claustrophobia in the room.
It all adds to this this great suspense and this great drama of this story.
There are some wide shots, but most of the wide shots seem to make a point. They've taken a break. They've finished their last ballot.
Once we hit the outside, I wanted emotionally to do the same thing that the location did, which was, it's over, a breath of air, emotionally and visually as well. Immediately went to wide-angle lenses. For that last shot, it's all one take. At the end of every day, we go and see the rushes. We'd go see the film of the previous day's work. And Fonda hated watching himself. He couldn't bear to watch himself on the screen. So he came to the first day's rushes, sat directly behind me. First 2 shots came up, he watched. Third shot came up, he was in it. Barely sat through it, and just leaned forward, grabbed me by the shoulder, said, it's wonderful. Got up, fled, and never came to rushes again. We opened at the Capitol Theater in New York, which no longer exists. And we were just watching people go in, and there weren't that many of them.
We were stupid because the Capitol seated 5,000 people, and we opened the picture there. It lasted 1 week, and it disappeared. It lost money.
Even when we got Academy nominations for Best Picture, and Best Script, and Best Directing, we never did any business in the United States. But we did unbelievable business overseas. Interesting, a picture that's nothing but dialogue.
Just want to talk.
Well, what's there to talk about? 11 men in here think he's guilty. No one had to think about it twice except you.
With a debut like 12 Angry Men, even though it wasn't setting the box office on fire, you could predict that Sidney Lumet would have a terrific career, and of course he did.
If you talk to anybody who's had any extended career in movies, you'll find over and over again that they use the same word, luck. This gave me the confidence to approach movies in a certain way, and it's something that's stayed with me right into today.
It was one of those movies that you kind of wanted to go around and spread word of mouth and tell everybody how great this movie was.
The feedback on it from a social point of view was and is to this day still enormous.
It's only later, as people begin to realize how truly great it was, that they've come to love this movie as they have.
When the film was shown on television, it started getting a new audience. It's been on Broadway, and so people really got into the whole 12 Angry Men concept.
How many law students tell you they saw 12 Angry Men when they were a kid? And that's why I went to law school, because I saw 12 Angry Men.
For the last 50 years, people have been watching it, and you can see really how far we have come and haven't come in terms of prejudices and things like that.
Almost every person in there represents a character that could be saying the exact same thing today.
This kid is a liar. I know it. I know all about them. Listen to me. They're no good. There's not a one of them who's any good.
When somebody like juror number 10 can say that, that's like right out of the op-ed page of the New York Times, right now. The idea that these prejudices are not so overtly expressed does not mean that they do not exist.
We're being told constantly, just as we were in the 50s, there's good and there's bad. They're bad, we're good. They're wrong, we're right. And really what 12 Angry Men reminds us is, it's not black and white. There's gray. And we have to remember that.
We're talking about somebody's life here. We can't decide it in 5 minutes, supposing we're wrong.
Supposing we're wrong.
It really resonates because they're trying to do the right thing, and so in the end the system works, and we want to believe the system works, so that's why we love this movie.
Well, what do you want? I say he's guilty.
You're alone.
It had great pleasure about it because there was this burst of creativity that was just fabulous, and everybody knew that they were doing good work.
The jury will now retire.
I have a reasonable doubt now.
You can't send someone off to die on evidence like that.
The more people see it, the more happy I am, because I think it's a good film, and I think those were the good old days.
I'd like to change my vote to not guilty.
I vote not guilty.
Not guilty.
I think it's important today as it was in the 50s, and to be honest, it'll be important 50 years from now. 12 Angry Men will be around for a very long time.